So we've done the top 10 strength weapons in Elden Ring, and we've also done the top 10 faith weapons in Elden Ring, so it's only natural that we progress into the top 10 best dexterity weapons in Elden Ring after patch 1.10. Now, don't get it confused. This is not a list of the best bleed weapons. We are only going for dexterity weapons in this particular video. If the weapon happens to have bleed on it, that's great, but there will be a separate video for the best bleed weapons in Elden Ring after the most recent patch. So this is only going to be dexterity weapons. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. But before we do that, understand this is my personal opinion. If you have a difference of opinion, that is fine. Leave it down in the comments below, and I would love to talk to you more about it. So let's go ahead and jump in to our number 10 weapon. So starting our list off in slot number 10, we have the Keen Great Knife. Now, the reason that this weapon is even on the list in general is because it has an S scaling in dexterity, and surprisingly enough, it causes a little bit of blood loss, which is super nice to have like a little icing on the cake. Its physical damage is super low just because it is a dagger, but it scales incredibly well with dex. If you have 2 of these, you're going to have a really fun time playing through the game, and the fact that you can put any Ash of War on it is super nice. It has incredible diversity when it comes to a dagger because not only do you get blood loss on it, but you can also put other status effects on it as well in order to get a dual status effect build on one weapon. Obviously, the cons of this weapon are that it is a dagger, its range is incredibly small, and the hitbox is a little bit wonky when it comes to daggers in Elden Ring. But because it has such a great attribute scaling with dexterity at S, it had to go on this list because this is one of the only weapons in the game that has an S scaling in dexterity. I also mentioned getting 2 in one playthrough. You can start with the Bandit class and get this weapon, and then you can make your way up to the Craftsman Shack and Mount Gelmir, and there's 4 guys there that have a potential of dropping it, so you can just farm them and then get 2 on a playthrough. In slot number 9, we have the longest curved sword in the game, the Bandit's Keen Curved Sword. This has great physical damage for a curved sword. It's also going to have a pretty decent attribute scaling in dex, sitting right there at B, and you can put any, if not most, Ash of Wars on this weapon. The major con of this weapon is it is incredibly rare to find. I only have 1 on each character, and the drop rate is incredibly low. However, if you do manage to get 2 of these and you want to perform a jump attack build, this is one of the most broken and overpowered weapons in the entire game. I also really like the heavy charged R2 you get with these curved swords, allowing you to hit the enemy twice, which definitely ups the damage output of this weapon. Now, this does have a higher AR than the Scavenger's curved sword, which is why it beat it out in this slot, and overall, the Scavenger curved sword just wasn't as good as the rest of the dexterity weapons, which, spoiler alert, is why it didn't even make this list. But overall, the Bandit's curved sword is a really fun weapon to use. The only reason it's this high on the list is because it has a very low dexterity scaling compared to the rest of the weapons here. Now, moving into our slot number 7 is yet another weapon that has a B scaling in dexterity. However, I feel like the Ash of War on this weapon is incredibly amazing and shoots this weapon farther up than the Bandit's curved sword was, and that is going to be the ornamental straight sword. This weapon is super fun to use, and not only do you get 2 weapons for equipping 1 weapon, but when you use Golden Tempering its Ash of War, the moveset completely changes, allowing you to absolutely wreck the majority of enemies in Elden Ring. Now, I will say the bad thing about its Ash of War is the fact that it applies holy damage, and at the end of the game, the holy damage really falls off, but the fact that the physical damage is still pretty decent on this weapon, and with Golden Tempering you hit incredibly fast, it still is a viable option all the way towards the end of the game. Once Golden Tempering is activated, you do have some pretty good stagger potential if you hit your entire combination, and if paired with certain talismans, your damage can really skyrocket when using this weapon. However, it is so high on the list because of its poor dexterity scaling compared to the rest of the list. With the dexterity scaling at B, it just couldn't get any higher. Now, in slot number 6, we have the Butchering Knife. When you put a Keen affinity on this weapon, you are going to get an A scaling in dexterity. Not only does it have great dexterity scaling, it comes with a really great Ash of War Barbaric Roar, but the best thing about that is you can switch off the Barbaric Roar and put any Keen Ash of War on it, and it will take this weapon all the way up to that A scaling that you want. Now, the icing on the cake of this weapon is not only can you get it incredibly early in the game from the invader at the Smoldering Church, but it also is going to restore 1% HP on hit. Regardless of your swing speed, this weapon will absolutely give you 1% health back per hit. It's really great with wild strikes on it. It also benefits well from repeating thrust, and between its A scaling and dexterity, its really nice physical damage, and it's getting health back on hit, it well deserves a place right here in the middle of the pack, right before our top 5. 5. Now, if there's one con to this weapon, I would say that I do not like its heavy charged R2. It has very little range on it, considering it's just a guillotine motion straight in front of you, and there's been many times in this game where that has totally messed me up, and I've completely missed and then gotten absolutely smacked by a boss. However, that is more of a personal gripe rather than an overall view of the weapon. That's just how I feel about it, and it's gonna sit here right here in slot number 6. And obviously, guys, as I always do, I want to sit here and thank you guys so much for watching this far into the video. If you like what you're seeing and you're finding value from the videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it a ton. And you can click that bell notification so you can know when I'm making more videos. I make a ton of Elden Ring and Lies of P content currently, so if that interests you, definitely check it out. Also, we do have a Patreon if you want to support in a different way. I'm going to be uploading a ton of different videos up there. The majority of it is going to be lore videos, so if you're interested in Elden Ring lore, Lies of P lore, that's where those videos are going to be for my channel, so definitely check that out. I'll leave it linked in the description below. Now, let's go ahead and get into our top 5. So moving into our first weapon within the top 5, we are going to be looking at the Guardian Swordspear. I absolutely loved this weapon when I did a playthrough with 2 of them, and when you equip Sword Dance on this weapon, it just becomes an absolute powerhouse. It has great dexterity scaling with a dex scaling of A, and it has very low attributes required in order to use it. And the best part about this weapon is not only can you get it incredibly early in the game at the Smoldering Church, but you can also get 2 of them and absolutely wreck everybody. Between really crazy jump attacks and the fact that you can put any Ash of War on this weapon, it definitely deserves a top 5 slot because its physical damage is great, the versatility of the weapon is great, the scaling is great, and overall it is a lot of fun to use solo or with 2 of them. And I normally don't enjoy the halberd moveset, but with the single-handed moveset of this particular weapon, you get really fast and vertical strikes, allowing for a fun combat playstyle when it comes to this weapon. Now, inching ever closer to our number 1 slot, in slot number 4, we have the good old-fashioned Bloodhound's Fang. What can you say about this weapon that hasn't already been said? It continues to be one of the top weapons in the entire game. Its Ash of War is so good, it hits for so much damage, and Bloodhound's Finesse provides an absolutely amazing combat experience, and all of the moveset really blends well together, allowing you to feel like you are just the king of combat. Now, what's interesting about this weapon is its physical damage is really nice, but its dex scaling is only at B. You wouldn't know it because of how well and hard the weapon hits, but overall, the Bloodhound's Fang is constantly in that number 1 through 5 slot. It's never moved downward, and it also hasn't really gotten any huge nerfs over the past 2 years. The last 2 reasons that this weapon is sitting very comfortably in our 4th slot is because you can literally get it in Limgrave at the very beginning of the game, and it can carry you all the way through until the Elden Beast. Another great thing about the weapon is it comes with blood loss innately on the weapon, so if you want to do some kind of Dex Arcane build with this weapon, you are more than welcome to do so, and it will perform marvelously. Now, for the weapon in our top 3 slot, it can actually go back and forth between 3 and 2, so I'll let you guys be the judge of that down in the comments if you feel that I've gotten it wrong. In our 3rd slot, we are going to be putting the Bolt of Gransax. Now, there's a few reasons why it's not quite in top 2 for me, but it is an absolutely phenomenal weapon. It has a dex scaling of C, which actually isn't great at all, but it has lightning and physical damage that do well to make up with that. And not only that, its Lightning Spear Ash of War is going to allow you to wind up and snipe enemies in Elden Ring, allowing you to take people out from afar while doing a crazy amount of lightning damage. When stacked with a few complementary talismans and a really nice flasks to boost your lightning damage, this weapon definitely deserves to be in the top 3 slot, and it's also just crazy fun to use. The Bolt of Gransax is considered a spear, so it's going to provide you with some pretty great pierce damage, and its heavy charged R2 can really pack a punch. Now, where this weapon falls short and doesn't quite get to the number 2 slot for me is the fact that when people close in on you, Ancient Lightning Spear is almost unusable. It really negates that whole part of the weapon, so you're only forced to use pretty much a normal spear with some decent physical and lightning damage with a lower dexterity scaling. Now, all that being said, Ancient Lightning Spear does allow you to pretty much kill everything in 1 to 2 hits, so that's not really a huge gripe. Now, when going over our weapon in slot number 2, you're going to understand why it beat out the Bolt of Gransax. In slot number 2, we have the Dragon King's Cragblade. This is going to be considered a heavy thrusting sword, so it's got that standard / pierce moveset, and its Ash of War overall, I think, has better uses than the Bolt of Gransax's Ash of War does, because you can use Thundercloud form very close range, and it will do area of effect damage, as well as a ridiculous amount of lightning damage stacked with the appropriate flask and talismans for a really nice lightning build. Its dex scaling is also higher, sitting right here at B, and both its physical and damage are higher than that of the Bolt of Gransax. The moveset for this weapon overall is faster, and its heavy charge star 2 once again will pack an incredible punch with that really powerful thrusting attack. I think overall the weapon is very well rounded when it comes to everything from scaling to Ash of War to the physical damage that you're doing with it, and it's going to provide you with a really nice playthrough either on New Game Plus or towards the end of the game, allowing you to get all the way to the Elden Beast with pretty much no problems. And lastly, we come to the very last weapon, in my opinion, the most versatile when it comes to Ashes of War, the longest when it comes to range, and has the ability to do an incredible amount of damage. That is going to be the Nagakiba. The versatility of this weapon between Ashes of War and adding buffs and having fantastic damage, as well as a great dexterity scaling at A, brings this weapon right to our #1 slot. If you want to put a Frost build together, this weapon is awesome. If you want to put a Bleed build together, you can also do that with this weapon. You want some flames on your Nagakiba? 100% definitely you should do that. It is super fun. Overall, the Nagakiba is one of the most, if not the most versatile, fantastic, and fun weapons to play through the game with, and I think that anybody can agree that if it's not the very first weapon, it definitely deserves to be in the top 3. The Nagakiba is going to have innate blood loss already on the weapon, and it's going to have very low requirements to use with strength at 18 and dexterity at 22. If you do want to get this weapon very early in the game, you can get it in Limgrave if you kill Yura, and between its ability to be attained early in the game, as well as being able to put on pretty much any Ash of War or buff upon the weapon, the Nagakiba is sitting perfectly right at our #1 slot. And guys, that is going to be all for the top 10 best dexterity weapons within Elden Ring, in my opinion. Let me know how I did down in the comments below. We are going to be putting together a best bleed weapons video over the next few weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you guys can know when it's dropping. If you guys want to stop by a stream and hang out, I do stream Tuesday nights here on YouTube, and I'm going to go ahead and leave a ton of videos here on the screen for you to go check out. But until next time, guys, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.